Good morning and welcome to Daybreak. I'm Chris Hoffman.
And I'm Kelsey Metzger. This morning on Daybreak, the holidays are just around the corner, and we have an inside look at what Pittsburgh is doing.
Plus, the temperatures took a dip. All 50 states were below freezing last week. Our weather report hopefully brings a brighter outlook, Kelsey.
Daybreak starts right now.
Kelsey, last week it was snowing, it was below 0-degree wind chills even.
It was frigid and it was awful for November.
Oh
I expect that in January for here, but
and it makes you just start to wonder, how bad is this winter going to be?
I don't know, but it wasn't too bad this morning. Phil is here with our morning outlook.
Well, let me tell you, Chris and Kelsey, for November, it's a pretty nice temperature we're going to have today. It's going to be high in the low 60s. There is a chance of showers all day with winds south-southwest at 18 miles per hour. But I'd have to say, compared to the weather last week with all the snow, especially north of us, I'd say that 60 degrees for November is pretty good. And I think that I'd have to tell you that the rest of the week doesn't look too bad either weather-wise, but I'll get to that later in the 7-day forecast. But right now, we're going to send it over to Emily with National News.
French authorities have identified the second Frenchman in the ISIS terror video. 22-year-old Michael Dos Santos from the southeastern suburbs of Paris took part in a video that showed the murder of an American aid worker, Peter Kassig. Dos Santos was one of the 16 executioners that took part in the beheading of Kassig and more than a dozen other Syrian soldiers. French officials say that more than 1,600 French nationals are involved with ISIS, including 376 in the combat zone. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon has declared a state of emergency with a grand jury decision due at any moment in the controversial case of Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. Nixon does not believe there will be violence, but the move is a precaution after the weeks of riots and looting this summer when unarmed black teenager Michael Brown was shot dead by the police officer. Dr. Martin Salia died Monday after arriving in the U.S. from Sierra Leone for Ebola treatment. The doctor was working as a primary care physician and was not specifically working with Ebola patients when he became infected. The Senate failed to pass the Keystone Pipeline bill, which would have allowed the building of an oil pipeline from the border of Kansas to Nebraska through the plains and eventually into Canada. Environmentalists said the production of the crude would only increase greenhouse gases. The bill failed by one vote, although the House had passed its version of the bill on Friday. Temperatures in all 50 states plunged to the freezing point or below as a ferocious storm dumped 4 feet of snow on upstate New York, leaving residents trapped in their homes and stranding motorists on roadways. Buffalo residents were told that they should expect over 6 feet of snow. The New York governor declared a state of emergency for the countries most affected by the weather, and officials say there have been 5 deaths so far. That's all I have for national news this week. Let's send it over to Kelsey and Chris at the couch.
Now, Kelsey, she mentions that snow. My goodness, you see the pictures. It's just unbelievable how much snow there's been up there.
I know we complained about the temperatures last week, but it could be worse.
Oh, absolutely. It could be a lot worse.
It could definitely be worse. But coming up on Daybreak, student involvement is on the low. What USG is doing to connect with the student body.
And later, a Steeler walked off the field last week before the game was even over. Josh will have it all in your Daybreak Sports Report.